Welcome, everyone, to the Explainer. Man, I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me today because we are kicking off a truly exciting journey. Today, we're diving right into the foundational concepts of CIT 125, Chapter 1, which is all about your introduction to programming with C++. Now, whether you've tinkered with code before or you're coming in with a completely blank slate, don't worry. This explainer is designed to give you the precise tools you need to understand exactly how we communicate with machines.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. First up, welcome to programming. Second, speaking to computers. Third, thinking like an architect. And then we're going to break down the three fundamental logic structures: sequence, selection, and repetition.
Section 1. Welcome to Programming, Becoming a Translator. Okay, let's dive into this. This first phase, it requires a bit of a perspective shift. You see, before you're a coder, you're actually a translator. Your primary goal is to take a very human problem and translate it for a machine. Now, when people think of programming, they almost always imagine some genius furiously typing out green math equations on a black screen, right? Well, let's demystify that right now. Programming is entirely about mindset. So I have a direct question for you. Do you have what it takes? Well, here are the qualities employers are actually looking for in a programmer. Notice what isn't on this list? There is absolutely zero mention of being a math prodigy. None. Employers are actually looking for highly human qualities. We're talking logical and analytical thinking, a really close attention to detail, patience and persistence, a nice dash of ingenuity and creativity, and solid communication skills. These are the traits you need long before you ever touch a single line of code. And honestly, those communication skills are absolutely vital, because the actual workflow of a programmer is a highly accessible, highly structured problem-solving process. You don't just sit in a dark room all day. First, you meet with the user to figure out what their problem actually is. Then you convert that problem into a program. Next, you test that program to make sure it, actually works. And finally, you provide a user manual so others know how to use it. It's just a clean, logical progression from a real-world issue to a digital solution. Section 2. Speaking to computers, the evolution of code. So, once you understand a user's problem, you have to actually tell the computer how to solve it. And if we look at the evolution of code, we can see just how incredibly lucky we are today. The very first programmers had to write instructions using machine languages, literally just tapping out combinations of zeros and ones. I mean, can you imagine the tedious, error-prone life of doing that all day? No way. Thankfully, that evolved into assembly languages, which used short little mnemonics like A, A, D. And today, we get to use high-level languages like C++, which actually allow us to use English-like instructions. Our lives are so much easier now. But here's the catch. The computer hardware itself, it still only understands those zeros and ones. So how does our English-like C++ code actually run? Well, it happens through a vital tool called a compiler. The compiler is the ultimate translator. It takes all of your high-level, human-readable instructions and converts the entire thing into computer-readable machine code before running the program. Now, within these high-level languages, there are different paradigms, which are basically just different ways of organizing your code. Procedure-oriented programming focuses strictly on the major tasks needed to accomplish a goal. Step A, then step B, then step C. On the other hand, object-oriented programming breaks a problem down into interacting objects, which allows for much, much better code reuse. Modern languages like C++ are amazing because they empower developers by supporting object-oriented design, allowing you to build complex, reusable, and highly efficient systems. Section 3. Thinking like an architect, designing the blueprint. So now that we know how to translate, it's time to shift roles again, from translator to architect. And every great architect starts with a blueprint. In programming, our blueprint is called an algorithm. An algorithm is simply a set of step-by-step instructions that accomplish a specific task. Think of it exactly like following a recipe to bake chocolate chip cookies. It doesn't matter if the recipe is written in English, Spanish, or C++. The logical step-by-step process to bake those cookies remains exactly the same. And no matter how insanely complex the algorithm is, whether it's a simple cookie recipe or literally the software running a Mars rover, it's always going to be built using just three basic control structures. These are sequence, selection, and repetition. These three things dictate the flow of logic in absolutely every computer program ever written. So let's look at them one by one. Section 4. The sequence structure, one step at a time. The sequence structure is the most fundamental tool in programming. It just directs the computer to process instructions one after another. And this is brilliantly illustrated if we imagine a robot named Robin. Let's say Robin is standing in a hallway facing a closed bedroom door, exactly 2 steps away. The algorithm reads 1, walk forward, 2, walk forward, 3, open the bedroom door, 4, walk forward. The instructions are processed in exact chronological order to get Robin successfully through that door. It's simple, it's predictable, and it's totally linear.
Section 5. The selection structure. Making decisions.
But you know what happens when life, or your code, isn't perfectly predictable? We need our programs to actually make decisions. Now, what's really interesting here is how algorithms adapt to do just that. Let's say Robin has walked 5 steps to reach 2 boxes, one red and one yellow. She needs to drop the balloon she's currently holding into the matching box. So the algorithm has an instruction that says, if the balloon is red, drop the balloon in the red box, else drop the balloon in the yellow box. The algorithm branches. It essentially asks a question and chooses a specific path based on the answer. This, right here, is the true heart of intelligent-seeming software.
Section 6. The repetition structure. Looping instructions.
Finally, we have the repetition structure, which is most often called a loop. Let me tell you, this is a programmer's absolute best friend because it saves us from the incredibly tedious task of writing the exact same lines of code over and over again. Let's see how this builds a significantly cleaner algorithm. Instead of writing walk forward 5 separate times in our list of instructions, the instruction just says repeat 5 times, walk forward. It achieves the exact same result as writing it out 5 individual times, but it is vastly more efficient to both write and read. But wait, what if you don't actually know exactly how many steps Robin needs to take? Well, our logic adapts beautifully here too. We can loop based on a condition instead of a fixed hard-coded number. By changing the instruction to repeat until you are directly in front of the boxes, walk forward, the algorithm perfectly solves the problem of an unknown distance. It just evaluates the condition before every single step. Once she is finally in front of the boxes, the loop ends and the program naturally moves on to the next instruction. So the crucial point here is that whether you're using sequence, selection, or repetition, you have to express these logical structures using the specific vocabulary and grammar of the tool you're using. In programming, this grammar is called syntax. It's the strict set of rules you absolutely must follow. For example, in C++, you have to end your statements with a semicolon. If you forget that one tiny little dot and comma, the compiler will completely refuse to run your brilliant blueprint. I know, it's unforgiving, but hey, it's the law of the land. And that, my friends, brings us to the real challenge. You've been introduced to the mindset, the tools, and the universal architectural structures of programming. Now it's time to put on your hard hat. In your upcoming Lab 1-1, you're going to be tasked with calculating a 3% bonus for salespeople based on their sales. I want you to look at that problem and ask yourself, how will I apply sequence, selection, and repetition to architect the solution? You have the tools, you have the mindset, and now the digital world is literally yours to build. So what are you going to create first? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy coding!